Good evening. A Salute to Carnival. That's a rather sweeping title, and I'm not quite sure what it means. What is the Cotton Carnival? Is it the fireworks you saw at the beginning of the program? Or the grand parades down Main Street? Is it the great midway on Fun Street and the carnival barkers with their spiels and promises? Possibly. Or could it be the arrival of the barge on the waterfront bearing the King and Queen of Cotton, whom you'll meet in just a few moments? It's all of those things and more. First of all, the carnival is based on cotton, the white gold of the South. This is only a partial report on the progress made by a united cotton industry, an industry which has made this annual carnival possible. But the story of cotton is pretty dry fare to some people who are not associated with it. It was necessary to bring pageantry to the carnival so that the average person would take an interest in it. Color and excitement and suspense were needed. Each year, a king and queen is chosen to reign over the Cotton Carnival. They're chosen far in advance, and their names are kept secret until this night.
Hey, you look over this way. And a lot of fun. Anybody can laugh.
King Barry Brooks, a true Southern gentleman, and Queen Lila Rape, a beautiful and utterly charming young lady. We would like tonight to have you meet the King and Queen and get to know them more intimately. King Barry Brooks, as we mentioned earlier, is a true Southern gentleman, and a famous one at that. The 1950 edition of International Who's Who lists Barry B. Brooks as international sportsman, business executive, cotton merchant, planter, civic leader, world traveler, naturalist, cattle breeder, big game hunter, photographer, lecturer, and traveler. Now, where do you start delving into the life of a man with all those talents? We know that King Barry was born in Senatobia, Mississippi, and his family moved to Memphis in 1912. He entered the cotton business in 1922 and formed the Barry B. Brooks Cotton Company on Front Street in Memphis in 1936. He's married to the charming Virginia Field Walton and has one daughter, Virginia, who, incidentally, is famous in her own right as a big game hunter. A big game hunter. That sounds exciting. Let's explore that a bit. Mr. Brooks, how long or how many trips did you make to Africa?
Russ, I made 2 trips, and one for 3 months and another for 8 months. I actually spent 11 months in the bush collecting these animals.
Whatever gave you your first idea to go to Africa for big game hunting?
Russ, really my first idea was back in 1908 when Teddy Roosevelt was over there, and since I was 6 years old, I have been planning these trips to Africa because I wanted to collect an African haul and present it to the people of the Mid-South. I really had this ambition from early childhood.
Well, you certainly fulfilled your ambition. We're standing under what to me is a tremendous trophy. Could you tell us a little bit about that
Russ, that
elephant head?
really is a tremendous trophy. That African elephant, now do not confuse him with the Indian elephant, his lesser docile cousin that long ago sold out to mankind. He's the one you see in the zoos and the circuses. But the African elephant is really the most dangerous animal alive. And this one stood about 12 feet 2 inches high at the shoulders. And he measured about 29 feet from the tip of his trunk to the tip of his tail. And he would weigh about 6 tons. And when those ears are spread out like you see them there, they will actually measure about 12 feet across.
You would call this gentleman then the king of the beasts?
Oh, the African elephant is a real king of the beasts. He is a mighty monarch of the bush.
Is the head normally, how high in the air is the head, or how high off the ground normally?
Well, just about like it is here, Russ. In mounting this trophy, we have mounted it about 4 inches higher than the normal height of the elephant.
Well, that is a tremendous trophy. Suppose we move on around the hall and see what else.
Good, we'll do that.
Mr. Brooks, these little animals here are very intriguing. They have immensely long necks for the size of the head. What are those?
Yes, they are called the giraffe gazelle. They are really garrnucks, but they have long necks and long legs, and when they feed, they stand up on their hind legs and browse on the twigs of the acacia trees.
What is their defense in this battle for survival in the jungle?
Well, I guess because they're fleet-footed.
That's about their way.
Yes, that's their principle. Of course, they do have the horns that you see. By the way, the one on the lower right is a second world's record.
And record in what manner?
Length of horns.
Oh, I see.
Length of horns.
Beautiful horns. Beautiful animals. On my right here is something that I'd like to talk about a little bit. These wonderful tusks here. Can you tell us why one is... This is a matched pair, is it?
Yes, that's from the same.
Why is one always larger than the other?
Well, you know, elephants are right-handed and left-handed, the same as men or women. One tusk, the tusk that's used more than the other, is worn off, and that's the reason that you see that this tusk is a little longer than that one. That was actually a right-handed elephant.
Right-handed elephant.
These tusks, the one on the right weighs 149 pounds, and the one on the left weighs 145 pounds. That's a very exceptional pair of tusks.
How do you judge an elephant trophy-wise? The size, the height of the elephant? Or?
No, really the size and the height doesn't have anything to do with it. It's the size of the tusk. That's the way everyone's ambition is to photograph or to collect an elephant with tusk weighing 100 pounds each, but that's seldom realized.
I notice here this tusk right here has a tremendous gouge through it. What would cause something like that? It's
Well, it
awfully
could have
hard.
been caused in several ways. It might have been caused fighting, or either they use it to dig in the ground for water and to turn over stones. And it looks to me like that scar was made by some big boulder of some kind, the elephant trying to turn it over to dig for water.
How old would an elephant be having tusks like that?
We don't know how old the elephants get in captivity because there's never been an African elephant in captivity.
Is that right?
That's right. And with very, very few exceptions, let me add that. But we do know that they reach maturity at about 30 years and the height of physical perfection at about 50 years. But I'm inclined to believe that the lifespan of an elephant is very much like that of a human being.
Except that his height to maturity at 50 is a little better than that.
Well, sometimes as we get older, we like to think that.
Fine, let's move on here.
All right.
Now, shall we? Mr. Brooks, this is a magnificent animal, this giant sable antelope. Can you tell us something about him?
Well, the giant sable is really the most majestic of all of the African animals, and they live in only one part of Africa. That's on Angola, right down on the Portuguese West Africa is really where it is.
Is that a longer horned animal than usual? I mean,
Yes, later on we will see the regular sable, but this is really the giant, and they're very, very rare.
you gave the locale of this animal. Are all the rest of these animals from the same area? Or?
Oh, no. I mean, the animals, the different species are spread all over Africa. My east-west travel was about 4,500 miles across Africa, and my north-south travel was really about 5,200 miles. I drove my trucks 24,800 miles in Africa.
Heavenly days.
It's really a great country, and I traveled through Kenya or Uganda, the Belgian Congo, French Equatorial Africa, Anglo-Egyptian Sudan, Abyssinia, Ethiopia, Italian Somaliland, and on down across Tanganyika and Mozambique and northern and southern Rhodesia.
Well, we're enjoying the trip with you right now.
Thank you.
The Black Rhinoceros, is that a different species than just an ordinary rhinoceros?
Well, yeah, that's just an ordinary rhinoceros. He's called a black rhino, and I tell you, they'll perhaps test your nerve, especially when you're photographing them, more than any other animal in Africa.
Why is that?
Well, because they just stand there defiantly, and they are so big and powerful and strong and sullen and fierce and unpredictable. You never know when they're going to charge.
I have read that they have a remarkably small brain. Is that correct?
They do. I guess that's about our last remnant of the dinosaur family, prehistoric animals. Look more like it than any of them.
They certainly do. Now at this end of the hall, at the north end of the hall, we have another elephant, and suppose you tell us a little about that. I think that has a history to
Well,
it.
this is the elephant that was collected by my daughter, Virginia. I took her to Africa with me when she was 13 years old. And this elephant was collected when she was about 14 years old and 1 month. She was the youngest person ever to collect an elephant, and her record still stands that she collected the largest one that's ever been collected by a woman. So I'm very, very proud of her. This elephant is actually larger than the one that you saw that I collected at the south end of the hall.
Is that right? Doesn't Virginia, or hasn't she had some connection with the Cotton Carnival?
Oh, yes. Virginia was princess to the king, and she was Carnival princess 1 year, and 2 years ago she was cotton princess of the cotton exchange. She's had 3 princess jobs in the Carnival.
Well, that's a wonderful trophy. Let's move on, Mr. Brooks, and see what we have on this side of the hall. Now, what are we getting into here?
Oh, we're getting into the big hippo in the center, and on the right is the black lechwe, one of the rarest of all of the animals in Africa, and on the left is a Uganda calf.
Who got the hippopotamus here? Was that?
Well, my daughter and I collected everything that you see in here. Every animal was collected by one of us. I happened to collect that one.
Right behind me here on my right is the zebra, which we've seen in zoos before, but I think this one here these two are something special.
Well, there are different kinds of zebras, and that is kind of my pride and joy over there. Those are the second and third specimens ever collected of the maneless zebra. I collected them in the Luela swamp of the Anglo-Egyptian Sudan, and since that time they have been declared a new species and have been named by Dr. Benson, the curator of the museum in Denmark, Copenhagen.
Magnificent species. African Hall. Mr. Brooks, is this all of the hall?
Oh, no, this is only just one of the rooms. There are 3 other rooms. In fact, there are 155 specimens here representing 72 different species of African game. That's more than is on display in any other part of the country. But Russ, my real pride and joy are the movies that I've made. It's been my pleasure to show them in the interest of charity and game conservation. And I've raised to date over $345,700 for charity and charitable institutions. And by showing these pictures, I've enrolled over 63,000 new members in sportsmen's conservation social associations over the country. So that is my real pleasure and a real pride and joy.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
That expedition was very successful. King Barry brought some wonderful scenes of African wildlife back to this country. Thousands of people have seen them. The foregoing was just a very small segment of the thousands of feet of film which he has shown in the name of charity. There are many fine estates in the Mid-South. Good morning, King Barry.
Good morning, Russ. How are you this morning?
Just fine. I wanted to come out and see you and see your home and see Epping Forest Manor.
Well, we're certainly glad to have you. Would you like to come in and look around, or maybe first you would like to look out here?
Yes, I think I would. I noticed coming in you have a beautiful herd of Aberdeen Angus. I'd like to see those.
That's our pride and joy.
All
Won't
right.
you come with us?
All right, certainly. How many cattle do you have in the herd, Barry?
Russ, we have about, I guess, maybe 200.
Are these the only cattle that you raise?
Yes, all we have is a registered Aberdeen Angus cattle. Show cattle is what they are, and they graze in the different pastures around.
Barry, how many acres of land do you have for grazing these cattle?
We have about 200 acres for grazing, that is in pasture land, improved pastures.
How many acres overall?
Right at 320, Russ, and it's all encircled by rail fences.
I noticed you go all the way to James Road on one side and then to the Wolf River on the other.
That's right.
And then behind us, of course, it goes to
Highland Road.
Highland Road. That's probably an extension of Highland Avenue somewhere.
That's right. It would be.
How many cattle in this particular herd over here?
There are about 60 cattle in that herd. They're all cows, brood cows, and calves.
All your cattle are Aberdeen Angus?
Yes, every one are all show cattle, registered Aberdeen Angus.
You show some of them?
Yes, we have just gotten back. The show herd's just come in from the southern circuit.
Do you have any of your bulls here that we could see?
Russ, I have 2 bulls that I brought up that we might look at, and if you'd like to, we'll step over and take a look at them.
All right. Barry, suppose you tell me some of the finer points of these cattle. These are young bulls, aren't
Yes, these are young bulls. They're about a year old, Russ, and they've just come back from the show circuit. The bull that you see in the front there was grand champion at many of the southern shows. This bull was grand champion down at Baton Rouge, and that part you can see of his depth and size there, that he is really the champion. They're side both by the old bull that we have down here, and these are his calves. We have about 40 of them.
Did you say how old these bulls were?
These bulls were born in March. They're about 14 to 15 months old.
What would that bull weigh?
Well, he'll weigh about 1,200 pounds. They're much larger than you think they are.
Are they very hard to handle? I mean, are they...
Oh, you can see that they're not hard to handle at all. They're very easily handled.
They're certainly beautiful animals. And you're going to show these bulls...
We'll show them again this fall, and those of you who come to the Tri-State Fair will certainly see them out there at the Mid-South Fair.
Well, Barry, you certainly have beautiful stock on the Epping Forest, and I'd like now, if you don't mind, let's go into the house.
All right, Russ, we'll go on in now. I heard Lord Peacock giving the mating call, and we'll rush in and see if we can get him strutting.
All right, fine. Just a second, Barry. What is this?
That's a piece of medieval French armor.
And where did you get it?
Oh, my wife gave it to me for Father's Day. We call him Horace, and there's quite a fixture around the house here. Everybody seems to know Horace.
Do you ever wear it?
Not yet. I haven't yet.
Let's go look at the peacock.
All right.
Barry, how many of these peacocks do you have?
Russ, we have 12 peacocks, and they were all born here on the place.
How many did you start with originally?
Just a pair. Only 2.
Do you have any trouble raising them?
Well, we have trouble from the fox. There's a lot of red fox around here.
Where do they roost? In the
roost in the trees all around the place.
Now, out here at the shell, you have how many males are in that group?
Well, there's 2 hens and 2 cocks. The one nearest to us is a young cock. They do not develop those tail feathers until they are 2 years old. But there's the Lord there at the back, and maybe if we stay around a little while, we can find him strutting.
All right, let's see if he will. There are several things I'd like to talk about. There's so many interesting things. For instance, these books. What are these books?
That's Virginia's debut scrapbook and a Cotton Carnival scrapbook. Princess Virginia of the House of Brooks, and Princess to King Louis in 1952, Carnival Princess 1953, and Cotton Princess in 1955.
This contains all the activities that went on during this period.
Yes, it really does. Her mother has prepared that for her.
And the other is her debut book.
Yes.
I imagine they're both very interesting. Barry, this is, what is this case?
This case contains our excavations of Egyptology.
I'd like now to go into the drawing room. I'd like to meet Mrs. Brooks.
Good. We'll go right on in. I would like you to meet her. Russ, this is my wife, Virginia.
How do you do?
Hello. So nice to have you here.
Well, I've wanted to meet you for many, many years. I've admired you for quite a while. The fact that you shared your husband's experiences.
We've had many wonderful shared experiences, and we plan many more.
I understand that you went on the safari with them.
Yes, my pleasure was to keep the records of the safari.
And this, I believe, is the record?
Yes, it's called Screed of Safari Scribe. This was for the first expedition, and in '49 it was Spate of Safari Scribe.
I see. I understand your daughter Virginia, of course, went.
Oh, yes.
I'd hope to meet her.
She's in New York, but she will be home soon.
Do you have any pictures of her?
I would like very much to present her in the form of her portrait.
Mrs. Brooks, what was the occasion for this portrait?
This is Virginia's debut gown, and it is an exact copy of Queen Elizabeth's official coronation portrait gown.
It's very beautiful. Mrs. Brooks, Barry, it's been a pleasure visiting in your home, and I think that most of us have gotten a good insight as to the way the Brooks family lives. It's certainly been a pleasure.
Well, it was certainly a wonderful pleasure to have you at Epping Forest Manor.
Thank you.
Thank you, Russ, and
Thank
come
you,
back to see us again.
Certainly will.
Thank you.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, the King and Queen of the 1957 Memphis Cotton Carnival extend to you their official welcome.
Ladies and gentlemen, we would like to invite you to the Memphis Cotton Carnival, the nation's party in the land of cotton. We can guarantee you a grand and glorious time and an abundance of Southern hospitality. We hope that you can all come May 14th through May the 18th. And now, my lovely Queen, you look so charming. Would you like to address your subjects?
Yes, I'd like to join you in inviting everyone to come to the Memphis Cotton Carnival, because I can ensure everyone who comes they'll have a wonderful, wonderful time.